I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. Good evening, world, and welcome to another episode of A24 on the Rocks, the film review podcast that specializes in reviewing every single one of A24's extensive movie collection in chronological order. I'm your host, Kevin K. Konachek, and tonight we are reviewing, if you couldn't tell from my eloquent quote from the beginning of this, the 2017 James Franco directed and starred film, The Disaster Artist. A look at the wild and bewildering life of the artistic passion of the man, the myth, and the legend, Tommy Wiseau, and his cult classic film, The Room. I am joined, as always, by my wonderful, esteemed co-hosts, Eric, Kelly, and Cole, and we have all selected a beverage to accompany this episode, as always, and we are ready to jump right into it. I am working on a stiff glass of Michter's Single Barrel Rye Whiskey, because whiskey is the answer to life, as I've said time and time again, and will always be so. Eric, why don't you tell the people what you're working on this fine evening as we go around the room?
Hey, this is Eric Kiska. I'm drinking Labatt Blue, and I'm ready to make some fucking podcast gold tonight. Get everybody who's with me. Come on. Woo! Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
Kelly,
This is our
you
moment.
with me?
Our moment.
I'm with you. In fact, I'm so with you that I have 3 beverages with me tonight. First up on the docket is the end of a glass of white wine, followed by a Bud Light. And for dessert, we'll wash it all down with some water. You know, you gotta be moderate and, kind of keep it all even together. Cole, what are you drinking?
Hey, it's Cole William Whitlock Gibson. I am drinking Noble Oak Double Oak Rye. A little wine barrel whiskey action, quite delicious. And I'm feeling good, feeling it, I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Feeling saucy, as you were?
A24 on the rocks.
All right, well, first things first, this film is, subject is the 2003 cult classic, The Room. So we have to start there, because that's the basis for everything. Who has seen The Room, or have now seen The Room as part of this watching, or was familiar with The Room, or was a fan of The Room, or all things related to this cult classic before we even get to The Disaster Artist itself? Kelly? Anybody?
Not me. I haven't seen it still. We had this chance back when our local art theater was open to actually meet Tommy Wiseau and watch a screening of the movie. And we didn't go. Can you believe that we missed that opportunity?
It was one of those midnight screenings, yeah. And he was there for like a Q&A right before.
I kicked myself about it.
I don't know what we were doing, but yeah.
But ever since, I've had so much spite. I'm like, I can't watch The Room now because I missed the golden chance. And how am I supposed to watch it now? So I still haven't.
Okay. Eric, similar story?
Similar story. I didn't hear about it until this film came out. And yeah, I now know it as one of the worst films of all time. And I really love stories like this. One of my favorite movies is Ed Wood, which was a Tim Burton film. And that's about the making of Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is also another like horrible film, considered one of the worst films of all time. And I really love like Hollywood stories like this about how something went horribly wrong in the production of a film. It's actually really interesting.
I would agree. Anytime that you get that little behind the scenes, especially at something that goes so terribly wrong, it definitely, you always want to see the other side of the coin. And in Hollywood, you get all this glitz and glamour of all the things gone right, but there's obviously all of those duds, especially the spectacular ones.
And also, we might get a sequel. The Room Returns is to be announced, with Bob Odenkirk starring in it, and so we might get another chance to meet Tommy Wiseau, because I'm guessing he'll go on one of these tours
Fingers
again.
crossed.
Oh, I'm sure. Or he'll make a contract to make sure he's in it, because he's got to sell the rights to it or something.
He's got a new movie coming out next year, or this year now, so could see him.
Oh, boy.
It's called Big Shark.
That already came out last year.
Oh, it came out? Oh, my God. Wow.
All right. That's a Tommy Wiseau film?
Yeah.
Yep. And it was only released limited. He did a limited road show, so I'm guessing he took it to random theaters and did Q&As before, like how he does. Yeah. But yeah, looks pretty bad.
Big Shark. It's a comedy horror movie, so
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Of course. Cole, had you heard of The Room or seen The Room or had any dealings with The Room up until this film?
So I've never watched The Room. I've definitely well aware of it and seen a lot of the memes and stuff. When I was in college, it got pretty popular, but I never gathered around with the guys to watch it per se. So and I feel like it's a movie that I need to watch with an audience or people. Mm-hmm. So I haven't done it yet because something about watching it alone just seems wrong. So I have not seen it, okay. But
all right,
yeah.
So most of that answer I can say is exactly the same as me. I'm familiar with it because of the memes and have probably seen the "Oh Hi Mark" scene multiple times throughout the internet's history. But unlike you, Cole, I have watched it, and I've watched it alone. I watched it alone last night after finishing The Disaster Artist because I needed to see it as soon as I was done watching this movie because I was like, all right, what in the holy hell? This exists? And of course on YouTube, there's a edited, truncated version that cuts out the 15 minutes of sex scenes, which we'll get to in a little bit. But
why would you do that?
Go on YouTube. I'm just so YouTube can get past the censors, I'm
just
sure.
A little butt action.
We'll talk about the butt action later, I suppose. But yeah, so I watched it. I went through it and I sat through all 100 and whatever minutes of it, and I'm not any better for it, but I understand The Disaster Artist a little bit more after having finished
you did
it. So,
seem
all of
kind
you
of different to me today. There's a different sparkle in your eye.
Changed a little bit. My life has been changed by the magic of Tommy Wiseau. I think that's probably right.
You.
I mean,
your soul.
I could consider myself a fanboy of The Room now, right? And I could go to these screenings. Have you heard that they throw footballs and spoons at these screenings?
You got to.
It's
That's
a
what I
big
read.
deal, I guess. I don't get it personally. What's the spoon part? Did I miss that in the movie?
I don't know.
I don't think I remember.
I mean, the football's pretty obvious, but the spoon.
It's like a whole interactive viewing when you see this film. It's similar to I can't say exactly like Rocky Horror, but it's similar to that where people see it and they interact and they call back to the screen and everything.
Well, I mean, I suppose if you're going to go and purposely watch The Room, you're going to have to make it entertaining any way you possibly can, because let's not kid ourselves, guys. It's still the Citizen Kane of bad movies. It really just truly is terrible. But at the end of the day, we're about to review a life. That's what this film is about. That's what The Disaster Artist is about. It's a film about a person. It's a film about a life. And that's super interesting to me because this film is also clearly based off of, not clearly, but it is based off of a memoir of Greg Sestero. Sestero. I'm going to say that bad the whole time. But it's a memoir that he wrote, and he was the Greg in this film, right? So the dear friend of Tommy Wiseau. And it makes me want to read the memoir immediately. I want to go buy that book tomorrow and just read it, because if this movie was as fascinating as it was for me, I can't imagine what a truly, a real life telling of it also could be. But I want to start off by asking, what do you think the perspective or the bias of that perspective may lead in this film? So I guess what I'm trying to say is Greg wrote this from a certain perspective. And if this film is based off of that, how do we feel that it gave a fair shake to Tommy Wiseau, or how did we feel that came across in one way or another? Kelly, I know that was a little bit complicated, but I'm gonna field that to you and see if you can dissect what I was trying to get to.
Perspective seems to be of someone who totally cares about someone who's just untouchable, ethereal, not operating in the same universe that we are. It would be a very different story if it was from the perspective of Tommy himself. It wouldn't make any sense. It would come out like The Room. So you kind of need someone who's close to him, and it just happened to be Greg in this instant. And if this really all happened the way that it's told to us, what a odd chance for these two people to meet, and the weird relationship that they developed. And I guess who better to even tell the story? There's no one else who is in that close circle to do so. And he does all that while being deeply curious about this almost character of a person. It's like Andy Warhol, when people write about him, and it's they're trying to pinpoint how this human can exist while trying and avoiding kind of judgment. And it's just an earnest curiosity, while at the same time in some ways, what we're seeing is Greg being taken advantage of him and him being manipulative to him and all this kind of stuff, but he doesn't hate him for it. It's just almost a morbid curiosity. I don't know if it's morbid. It's like an earnest curiosity. So I think that's the whole perspective that this movie takes, and I imagine the memoir takes as well.
I think it's reported, as Tommy Wiseau says, that 99.9% of The Disaster Artist is true and only 50-some% of the memoir is true. So I think he also is a little bit biased, right? Because The Disaster Artist does a very good job of actually making him as an empathetic person, as a true character, not a villain or any way. And I'm not sure the memoir does that exactly. But I've also heard that Greg, upon seeing The Disaster Artist, it rehumanized Tommy for him. And Greg goes on to do more work with Tommy Wiseau because of The Disaster Artist. And I think that speaks volumes about how good this film was, because it was able to take, like I led off with, this life of this person and then create kind of this too good to be true or too crazy to be real story, but then it is. So, Eric, I guess I'm going to ask you, a lot of viewers sometimes come away from this film saying there's no way that was real. There was no way that Tommy Wiseau was actually like that this was a real person. I know you went into it thinking that it was the real thing, but were you questioning that? Did you have that base of reality you were watching? And how important is that to The Disaster Artist, that it's based on a real life story?
I think it's important. I think it's so much more interesting that this is a true story as far as Greg tells it. And yeah, I mean, Tommy Wiseau is an enigma of a person. We really don't know much about him. And he's apparently from Poland. That's in the book that Greg wrote. He apparently was from Poland, and I think that how he acts as a person, it makes sense that he might have been in a huge car crash. That's also what Greg said in the book, that he was probably in a huge car crash, and that is why he talks the way he does, and also probably acts the way he does. Like Gary Busey, he was in a motorcycle crash, and he kind of acts the same way now. So I do think there might be some kind of brain damage involved with him. But also he's just like a very odd guy. I believe he was probably odd before. And he seems like one of those street hustlers, and that's apparently also where he came from, San Francisco. He was kind of a street hustler, and then he purchased and rented out large retail spaces in and around San Francisco, and that might be how he got rich. Probably a mix of that, and maybe he got a huge lawsuit settled and got some money from a car crash. Who knows? I think that he's still an enigma, but I think that aspects of this story do make sense and ring true to me after I read more about it.
That's pretty awesome. Cole, I guess similar questions to both what I had for Kelly and Eric. From the perspective that the film was told, do you think they got it right, making sure that they kind of came across, leaving both the good and bad sides of Tommy, and then, of course, the follow-up as well with whether or not you thought it was believable, even though that we were told it was a true story?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, working in construction, you meet a lot of interesting people that do not act normal. So I 100% believe that this human being that is portrayed exists in reality somewhere. And I think the way that it was told, the room is such the cult classic terrible, and then Tommy is such a, like you guys mentioned, an enigma. So being able to tell a story that at times you feel for Tommy, and at times Tommy becomes like this insane person, and you're kind of getting this back and forth of just this weird dynamic, and then you're watching Greg, right? James Franco, or not James Franco, his brother, Dave Franco's character, Greg.
The other Franco.
Yeah, the other Franco, the good Franco.
Yeah.
Dave.
You see him just kind of his life and telling of kind of how he gets pulled back and forth, and then he's trying to be a good friend but also trying to further his career. I don't know, I felt like they did a really good job kind of walking that line where you don't go so far into the Tommy's just a piece of shit terrible person. So I thought they did a good job where they balanced it well and told it well.
On top of all of that, when it comes to Tommy and how he's portrayed in this movie and what I've seen of him from memes and from talk shows and stuff. Welcome to Kelly's Potential Diagnosis Corner. Are you guys familiar with histrionic personality disorder?
No.
You ever heard this? Here's some of the ways that it appears in a person. Rapidly shifting and shallow emotions, consistently uses physical appearance to draw attention, impressionistic and vague speech that lacks detail, an exaggerated expression of emotion that is theatrical and self-dramatized.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So, Diagnosis
That's the
Corner.
description there.
That's what I'm thinking kind of sounds like our character here, and that is what it is. And it's not like a really common personality disorder, but you'll see it in usually not A-list celebrities, but maybe like C-list, maybe D-list, people that are like their one goal in life is to just be loved by everybody. So I just saw some similarities there and wanted to put those little feelers out.
But the real question is, what's his zodiac?
Probably a Scorpio,
That's what I want.
but I'll see.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
We'll save that.
We
maybe
actually
for a
don't know
little bit
when he was born exactly,
true.
so there's no way of
We-
actually figuring out.
1950s.
He's only
60s?
like 17.
Yeah, we don't
How
know
old
like
is
what month
Tommy?
though.
Anywho, the first opening scene of the entire film I thought was really interesting because it featured a bunch of A-list actors, and they are basically gushing about the room, and they're talking about it's the best movie they ever saw, or Tommy was a certain, and the enigma, the thing we were talking about. But they were all so genuine. They all really were like, this guy, this movie, this thing was phenomenal. And Adam Scott finishes with talking about how he wished he could have been a fly on the wall, and how it really would have been incredible to see, or unbelievable. One of those descriptors. And I guess that goes back to it, like, if you were on that set and you were seeing what was happening, and I think the film did a fantastic job of making this a reality, I wouldn't have believed that this would have gotten off the ground from day one, right? I mean, from the moment that he starts with his speech to the private toilet to just the way that the scenes were all set from day one to the banking, all of that was just, it truly felt like it was way too big and too crazy. So I guess the question is, what did we think of that juxtaposition of the believable versus the non-believable? I know we already talked about it from a perspective of the whole film, but how about the way that they actually showed the direction and the way that they started day one? Eric, what do you think?
I think this film could have never been made if Tommy Wiseau didn't have extremely deep pockets. We saw like all these people just like, oh, the check cash? Okay, I'll keep doing this then. Like, and then, the people selling him the cameras, they were just like, nobody ever buys these cameras. And they're like, let's just follow my lead. We're going to like try to drain this guy of some money here. And yeah, like there's no actual reason other than this guy had a ton of money and people kept working on this film with him to try to get it completed because he kept paying all of them. And I think people stuck around for the money, and it is believable that people would do that. And they had no clue what the final outcome would be. But
so as long as the check was still continuing to get written, it didn't matter what was happening.
I think so. I mean, people did stick up for the actress on the film set in the sex scene. They stuck up for her, and also there were people, calling him a piece of shit. But I think they just stuck around because, the checks kept on getting written. And, I mean, I think there were people that quit during the filming of this, too. But also other people were just like, I'm just going to keep going until this is finished because he hired a lot of like D-list Hollywood people that probably wouldn't have been working on anything bigger at the time. So they probably all were really in need of money a head start. So
to 400 people total, I think, worked on this film.
Really?
Did I read that in an article
400.
right? I'm pretty sure 400 total, like between all of the different parts of the film from start to finish or something.
Yeah.
And how many sets are there in the movie? There's like...
Yeah, unnecessary sets too, because that's a whole thing too. Like, sorry, I could ramble all day about this, but Cole, you got a point before we kind of devolve across that point?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, being in situations where it's like watching a train wreck, right? And I would absolutely love to have been a part of this project or that movie when they're like all the actors are talking about it, just because I feel like if you have a good story, it's either something cool, something crazy, or something terrible. And like being part of something this terrible without like being the responsible party is just something that I think would be like such just a hilarious thing to look back on and be like, what the fuck? Because like, you know, I've seen situations in various like project sites and stuff like that where you're just like, this is a terrible idea, but they're not going to listen. You tell them this is like not going to work, not going to listen, and then like the contractor will want to go do it, and then you just watch it. You just see how just it all falls apart. It's a like, similar situation where just like, man, I would just love to been there, just be a guy like a fly on the wall, like that one guy was saying. So that was awesome.
I don't think the actors were being genuine at the start of the film. I really don't.
Oh,
I think that
really?
was supposed to be a joke.
Aw.
Does anybody else?
I don't know.
They actually
I thought
think
that
it's
they
the
thought
greatest film of all
I
time.
think it was a total
They were
joke.
being genuine.
No one thinks it's the best
It was
film
a comedy.
of all time,
All right,
for sure.
all right, fine.
I
thought they
think
were genuine.
I think a lot of those people probably love, especially actors and people in the profession.
They loved how
probably
bad it is.
love to hate it because it's just like they see all of the things that are wrong or all of like the terrible mistakes and like the, you know, from the filming aspect to the directing to the acting, like everything, the dialogue. Like I feel like every aspect of a professional in the film industry loves like hate watching this film, while like us normies love just watching it because it's so bad, right? It's more of just like a comedy thing. So
Maybe
that's
I'll
my
come back around. I think they genuinely
I think
enjoyed it.
also
I
I
think
do
they
believe
enjoyed
they
it.
wish they were on the
I
set,
think
though.
they enjoyed it.
it was such an internet meme at the time. It was almost like these are all like comedy actors that are giving their weight and their cameos and their credence to this movie and everything. And I think it's just them saying like, I'm still on the cutting edge of what's comedy and what's cool, and I know the internet memes, and yes, I'll be in your movie about it. And James Franco, you're gonna embody the whole character? That's hilarious. Let me in your movie. That's how I see it coming together.
I will say Adam Scott's point of the fact that people are still watching this in theaters 10 years later and not Oscar winners is still relevant, regardless of the content of the film. The fact that it's still getting these screenings and this attention says something one way or another.
Yeah, totally. It's very like postmodern way of like digesting media, where it doesn't have to be a award winner. It's just a conversation maker and a community builder.
Well, and no one knows exactly how much he spent, but it's estimated to be around like $6 million, right? He has made he's now like definitely made money with this film, and like it's now like a profit. He's making money off of it. Hell, there's a shit ton of like big budget Hollywood films that do not even break even. I mean, like you think of like what was it, the Hugh Jackman Pan that lost like almost $200 million. That movie was so bad. I don't like. No one remembers it. It came out maybe 10 years ago, and it will never recoup that money. Meanwhile, this guy is making money every showing he goes to. So, in a way, it's a success. It's a success story.
I mean, right, exactly. And where do you even go from there? I mean, the plot. It's so. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Reviewing this movie, it's not a documentary. It's not a biopic.
It's not a mockumentary either.
It's not right.
Serious.
It's not a mockumentary. It's a film based on a true event, but it's so astronomically wild that it just comes across just like The Room. Comedic, crazy, sentimental in some moments, I suppose, if you really look at it. And then just off of the wall. I'm trying to even wrap my head around what this question looks like. Did anyone else kind of run into this paradox as they were trying to review this or get ready to review it about what we were trying to view or enjoy?
It is, because
Kelly?
at the end, my favorite thing that they did was show shot by shot, like side by side, them recreating these scenes. And I'm like, this is a labor of love that all of these people went in there. They studied that movie like front to back to figure out how to do that, how to deliver the lines for some of them exactly the same. Like they studied, they put in the time, and it showed. So at the same time, it feels like because he's a character who's so over the top that they would be mocking him, but I really don't think that they are. So it's this weird, like, tongue-in-cheek form of love that's making them make this movie. So I don't know. It's like a mockumentary, but like tilted on the side in a way. I don't know exactly where to label it either, because you have to. In the last movie that we discussed, we talked about love and attention being the same thing. They had to pay a lot of attention to this movie in order to make this version of it. So there's love there. I don't know.
I think I might have the answer to your question, though.
I also, when you do that, but also I want you to ask or answer, do you think that James Franco's directorial experience was a reason that he empathized with Tommy's character as being a self-starter director who has been starring in his own movies and also has had to act in his own films? Do you think he was a draw to him as a person who has dealt with similar experiences?
I think that James Franco saw an opportunity to completely get out of his skin as an actor and to get an Oscar nomination. I think he saw this character, and I think every actor that has to play a character has to empathize with the character, no matter how horrible they are, or else you can't really get in the skin of the character. So I do think James Franco saw this character and was just like, what an interesting guy, what a chance to completely, subvert from all of the roles I played as a stoner or a drug dealer. Like that was kind of a lot of his roles before this.
Peter Parker's best friend.
Yeah, that too. And he saw a chance to like possibly get an Oscar, but also I think this is a how did it get made film. Like, how did this get made film? That is a podcast. Just how did this get made? Started by Paul Scheer, and Paul Scheer is in this film. Paul Scheer plays the director of photography, Raphael Smadja. And that podcast is really famous now. And, a lot of people like it. And I think this film is just a how did this get made film. How did The Room get made? And it starts with the origin story of Greg and Tommy's friendship. I think it's pretty simply put. They met. Tommy's like, I have all this money. I have a, apartment in LA. Let me take you here. Then he's like, let's make a movie. How did this get made? I think that's how that's the story of the film.
So,
I mean, you're not wrong. Cole?
I was going to say, I equally love and hate that you brought up, because I love Paul Scheer and I love that podcast, How Did This Get Made? So you stole my thunder, but I am very happy that you also saw the connection. But yeah, like Paul Scheer, if you ever listen to his podcast, obviously listen to ours first. Like and subscribe,
right.
Whatever, thumbs up. But
Unspooled,
podcast,
also very good.
Unspooled's very good too. But his podcast, How Did This Get Made? Like, if you listen to it, his love of just like terrible B-rated films, like all those terrible horror movies, he goes so deep, and he shows like so much love of like that art form in a sense, where it's like the art form of someone trying to recreate art that they have no business recreating. And his involvement in this film just like warmed my heart. And then his wife June is also in this film, and she's on that podcast, and they both just, I think it lends it to that kind of labor of love thing, where I think a lot of people that were involved has like, it's almost like a warm spot, or like a cozy spot for this film, where it's so bad, but people, you just want to watch it. So
Hollywood is a very unique business, in where people are allowed to take on multi-million-dollar projects, and they can completely fail at them and make a complete disaster, yet they keep getting work. And I don't think any other industry is like that. I don't think I know another industry where somebody's been giving millions and millions of dollars, and they completely fail, and everything's a complete dumpster fire, yet they still get to make another movie. I don't know any other industry like that,
right.
Or do another project in another industry.
I think so. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like The Room comes across the same way that Disaster Artist, as far as showing Tommy's true passion for what he's doing. He may have zero idea of the reality. He may have zero idea how he's coming across, but goddamn if he is not going to swing for the fucking fences when he tries at anything he does. And we see that from the ridiculous opening scene in the acting class, when he's doing that scene from a streetcar called Desire, Tennessee Williams,
a streetcar
right?
named Desire.
Named, not called. God, here's where I'm trying to make things up and I'm not even getting it right. Anyway, and just ridiculous things that he goes through. I think that's the real life Tommy Wiseau, as well as the way that James Franco showed him. I'm not even sure if I have a question regarding that, but I just feel like the way that they portrayed it, it really was. Maybe that's why this film is so endearing, is because the audiences can truly tell that while it's bad, he tried really freaking hard and he put a lot of like everything into it. I don't know. Do you kind of see where I'm coming from on this one at all? Kelly, what do you think? What do you think audiences were truly thinking when they were watching that film for the first time?
Put us in his shoes where he's being told you're Frankenstein, you're a villain, and he very loudly has a very emotive response always in that time of, I'm the hero, I'm an all-American hero, and all this kind of stuff. And the really like lack of social graces at the dinner, going up to a producer and trying to pitch things and all these kind of...
That was Judd Apatow.
Yeah.
Judd Apatow.
Yep. That Judd Apatow scene was great.
He was really funny. But when you kind of like... How do you not feel bad for him at that point? If they don't show these kind of things, if they only show it from the perspective of you're on the set and you just see him being a dickhead to everybody, nobody's going to like him. But when you put in... they made him like a well-rounded character. And it's weird to say character when he is a real human being. And every human being is well-rounded. So
it's a character, but it's not.
So they chose to show all those aspects. And it's important that they did, because otherwise you're just, why am I watching this movie about a dickhead? And let's point and laugh at him. And instead, they show you what happens when people do point and laugh at him and how it affects him, and that it's a reoccurring thing that happens to him all the time. And it puts him further into his trenches of the way he behaves and responds to things. So all of that, I think, was super important. And if they did not include it in this movie, it wouldn't be as good of a movie.
That's exactly right. Ugh. Eric, earlier in the pod, you kind of were doing the little inspirational speech, trying to get us all jacked up and ready for this episode. That speech on day one of filming, I found to be actually really inspiring and actually pretty well done. And I stopped and I paused and I was like, wait, was that like one of those savant moments where he just like does something completely just out of nowhere and it's like, wait, that was really, really good. And the crowd is like reacting to it. And it was just like, wait, today is a top of a mountain day. I love that shit. Like I love that. That's fantastic. Today we take the first steps. You love someone? What is love? You don't want to be good. You want to be great. Like, it was just so basic, but it really wanted me to get ready to go film. I just thought it was great. Did anyone else take note? Eric, obviously you did. That was a pretty great speech. Guys, what do you want to think about Tommy's getting ready? Would you film a movie with this guy? Cole?
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if I would want to be in a sex scene with him, but if I was asked to be in a film with him, yeah, 100%. I'll be your extra. I'll be your lumberjack. I'll be your huckleberry. I'll be whatever you want me to be. Yeah, no, I guess we don't know the full extent of, I guess, the quotes or like the word for word dialogue, but all of some of the sayings that Tommy says throughout the film, they're just awesome. And then obviously the stuff that, they're shot for shot recreations of The Room make me believe that he probably said some of those things. And, again, if you work with crazy people, they're going to say some stuff that just makes too much damn sense every once in a while. And I feel like Tommy's one of those guys where, 90% of the time you're like, this dude's crazy, and then that 10% you're just like, that was like probably one of the most like inspirational, insightful things I've ever heard from a human being. Like, how does that come from you? And then you just like the next thing he says some crazy shit, you're just like, okay, we're back at it, we're just rolling with the punches. So yeah, for sure.
Eric, Kelly, what do you think about that speech? Were you ready to run through a wall for Tommy Wiseau?
Yeah, that speech worked for me completely. I got no notes. There's nothing I would change about it. I was like, it's like Cole said, it's just like, okay, I'll attach my star to this person based on what they just said right there. It really moved me, and I'll grant them a lot of grace when they go back to saying stupid shit or like shit I don't understand afterwards.
They immediately follow up with stupid shit. Like, just the way it was so good.
I would have trouble dealing with the verbally abusive side of Tommy Wiseau. That's definitely would be that would be tough to be on a movie set and hear him verbally abusing like a woman, calling out her body and everything. That'd be fucked up. But also, I'd love to be in Hollywood and to just like I wouldn't even care if I was making a horrible movie. As long as those checks are cashing, it seems like a pretty cushy job. I mean, I know that they have to work like 12 hours a day and shit, but most of the time, it's better than just carrying mail in like negative degree weather. So that's fine with me.
Fair enough. Eric, I'm going to keep you talking, though, because I want to transfer over to the technical side of this. So this film talks about the room's famous decision, or Tommy Wiseau's famous decision, to film in both 35mm and HD digital at the same exact time. Now, we could just explain this away as Tommy just having no freaking clue what the hell he was doing at all, or finding out that no other Hollywood director had ever tried it before at all. But Eric, how ridiculous is this concept of filming both in 35mm and digital at the same time?
Completely ridiculous because it looks completely different, especially at this time. Like digital was not very good. Like I guess it was HD, probably was 1080p, but you'd be able to in the editing, you would be able to see the like large difference in the camera, the way every shot looks. It looks completely different. Film and digital look very different from each other, and that's why so many like directors like Christopher Nolan, he likes it in film because he thinks, one, it ages better. That film, there's a certain type of grain to it and picture to it that makes it age better. And then HD, like probably in 20 years, we're gonna have like 3600p or whatever, or 10K like cameras or whatever, and HD is going to look like complete shit. So definitely filming in both, and then if he was really I haven't seen The Room, but if he was intercutting between HD cameras and 35mm cameras, the shots will look completely different and completely off kilter. It would be so strange, and I don't know how a film could be viewed like that.
The HD got cut completely. They didn't use any of it whatsoever.
That's probably a good
they
choice,
just did the 35mm.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like,
was that your point, Cole?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The point, like, the only time you use digital,
big waste of money too.
If you use digital, you're using it to save money, because film is always going to be the like stronger, more crisp media when it comes to like filming a movie, which is why you got like all these crazy directors like Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino using film, because as it gets older and as technology gets better, they can make it even more HD. They can make it 4K, 8K. Like again, we've talked about it, I don't know, 100 times now. Freaking 2001 Space Odyssey, you can watch in 4K now because they shot it in film. With digital, it doesn't. It is what it is. It's only going to be as good as you can see it when you record it, but it's cheap because you don't have to buy the physical reels and stuff. You can just slap more cards into it. So the idea of you filming double, especially if you're already paying for the film, makes absolutely no sense. It's just like such
what about the idea of
money?
buying instead of renting the equipment too, just because?
Yeah, I mean,
also gigantic waste of money.
If you're gonna start a whole film production studio and all that stuff, hell yeah, you go for it, buddy. You're gonna be the next A24 for sure. But if you're making a movie, there's a reason why there's literal companies that make millions of dollars just selling the equipment or renting the equipment. So I mean, it's like the old saying, everyone went to California during the gold rush. Only one or two people, the 1% made the richest, and the rest of them didn't. But the guy who sold the pickaxe made the most money ever, right? So it's like the same concept.
Yep. Yeah.
I think it's like, is that money worth it though, so that he can walk around? Like, how much will you pay so you can walk around and boldly say, "I'm the first one to do this," even though everyone who hears you say that goes, "What an idiot!" But you still get to say it. And how cool is it to have it when they show it like rigged up, the two cameras next to each other? It was just like, cool.
Yeah, and that's what it was. That's exactly what it was. It was like, I want to be the only one, the first one, and I want to have a cool looking rig because it's a big Hollywood movie.
And then that's echoed later at the premiere when he has 2 title cards for his own production company. And he turns around and goes, I have 2 graphics. I was
like with 2 logos.
Yeah, I
or
have
whatever.
2 different logos. And that was like the funniest part to me. I have no idea. It just tickled me so much.
There's so many things about this movie that I just found myself going, is this real? Like, again, I get back to this whole point. I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like, just... And then also the things that they probably had creative liberty for. Like, Greg's character is saying that Home Alone, it changed his life. I'm just like, wait.
Or was it Home Alone 2 or just
Home Alone?
No, Home Alone. Because
Okay.
then Tommy goes, I'm Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
Oh my god, or Tommy's Planet, everyone just loves each other. Like that whole thing.
And then he whips out the pen.
All right, so I started out this pod.
Sorry.
Yeah,
That was
right?
just awesome.
We could just quote this movie for days and days, and that maybe is what makes it so great, to be honest with you. I think you guys should probably watch The Room at some point when we're done with this, just so you can see
I
what
do
the
want to.
hell
Yep.
this is based. It's just nuts. Anyway, the Oh Hi Mark scene. I started with that because it's the most iconic scene out of The Room. They did a really good job, in my opinion, of setting up this scene as far as the difficulties and things that went through with it. So I'm going to ask you guys, what did you guys think about this scene from start to finish? James Franco's ability to kind of portray this frustrated, crazy person, Seth Rogen and company's ability to show the other side of the camera, Dave Franco's, consoling ability to kind of give him the inspiration that he needed, and just the results from the top down. Kelly, why don't you start?
I want to talk on... So all of it, I have thoughts, but in the sake of leaving other things for the other people to talk about, I want to just talk about Seth Rogen. Because Seth Rogen, for me, in this movie, was my favorite version of Seth Rogen, which is like the pithy, sarcastic, kind of bully-esque type of Seth Rogen, not the giggling stoner type, but the one that's from Donnie Darko, the one that's from Freaks and Geeks. He kind of reprises that version of himself, and he is so good at selling that kind of like character. So when he's behind the camera just getting more and more exhausted, and he just has so many moments where he shines, and was a perfect cast for the role that he played in this movie. So I think that, I know we're talking about that scene, but also when it's the really hot day and there's no water and all this kind of stuff, he does such a good job of like, what is his title? He's not the director. He just like steps up to fill the role when Tommy takes forever to get there because somebody needs to, and he plays a great character. I
think everyone was able to play their role so well because they've all fulfilled this role in their actual life. I feel like Dave Franco is used to dealing with his crazy brother, James Franco, who's a bit of an oddball, some would say. So then you put him in a movie where his brother is played a crazy person and he has to play like the not crazy person. I feel like that is very similar to their actual life. I have no, real relation to them, but that's just what I see from the outside. And then you got like the Seth Rogens and all these comedians that have done like producing. Like Seth Rogen has gone into directing and producing. I mean, he's like doing animated films like the Teenage Mutant Ninja like Turtle. Like he's all over the industry on all different aspects of it. And then you got, again, like we talked about, like Paul Scheer he has the podcast specifically about terrible movies, but also Unspooled, where he reviews screenplays and stuff like that. I feel like all of these people know all of those roles and also have like lived those roles on terrible films, especially comedian actors, which this like film is just filled with them. I feel like comedian based actors always like notoriously will have just absolutely terrible movies that they're going to be a part of. I mean, like one of my favorite but terrible movies that Paul Scheer's in is Piranha 3D. So I mean, he's full in on it. So like, I don't know, I feel like all these guys have kind of lived it, so that's what made it feel so much more real in such a strange, like absurd story that is real. But you get all these guys that have lived it and they know the material, not just from the script, but from real life. And I feel like it translated extremely well.
Eric, anything you want to toss in on that subject?
So I guess this is where we're gonna kind of get into the James Franco-y aspects of all this, because I think this film was like the perfect culmination in all of like Seth Rogen and James Franco's efforts to make films. They did all these comedies that some were critically acclaimed, and this was their big, serious film that came out, and it got Golden Globe nominations, it got Oscar nominations, and it was like the culmination of years of like creative endeavors together that finally worked out. Even though it was written by Scott Neustadter and Michael Weber, who also wrote The Spectacular Now, another A24 film. But then, allegedly, so I don't get sued, allegedly, James Franco turned out to be a gigantic piece of shit, and now their relationship is very strained. So it's kind of sad, like that he allegedly turned out to be the person he was, because I feel like if they kept making more movies like this, then it could have turned out to be, we would have gotten an even better film next time from both of them. But it went the way it went. And yeah, I think this was probably the best like Rogen Franco film that I've seen from both of them.
Yeah, I would agree as far as like the seriousness of it. The way that Kelly was describing his character, I was thinking, I'm like, what other character does it remind me of? And it reminds me of his character in The Interview when he has to take James Franco's, like, he has to be his babysitter as like the producer of the TV show, and he's very serious the entire time. Not that that movie was particularly good in general, but at the time, if we all remember, we all thought we were going to get bombed by North Korea if we released that film, and that was a weird time for a movie to like enter into the mainstream media. Yeah. That was a whole thing. 2014, I think that was, right? It was a good time 15?
For memes too. We're about to start a war with a movie. Good times,
Weird.
That was prime meme time.
All right. So, Eric, you kind of opened the Franco Pandora box, so let's talk about the brothers a little bit more. Kelly, you passed the football, but they both passed it again, so we're going to go back to you. I want to know what you felt about the fact that the brothers were playing a very close relationship in this film, and whether or not you felt that it was aided by their actual relationship. Is the way they came across on film, was it as natural as it may have been because they were related, or just they have good chemistry together, or just kind of talk about the Franco brothers in general?
Yeah, I fully agree with what Cole had just said, where they're like playing characters that they already are in real life, as far as I can parasocially tell about their relationship. It seems to be what it probably is. So I think that natural brotherly chemistry comes across on screen. It's even when I think that James Franco, as alleged as he is, if that gives context to it, he did a very good job of becoming Tommy Wiseau for this movie. Like, kind of unrecognizable from how he is in really any other movie. If that character was played by a different actor as well, I don't even know how I'm trying to explain this. I'm just saying, like, James Franco was lost in his portrayal of this character to me. His brother wasn't. I've seen him in this. I've seen him in whatever that, like, college party movie is that James Franco is also in. What is that movie? Neighbors. Seth Rogen's in it, too. These guys had quite the trio going on for a while. So that's why I'm familiar with Dave Franco. I don't think that his character required a lot of super strong acting chops to probably pull off. It's good that they're brothers for it. I don't know how to say. I think that they did a good job. I don't know what else to say on that, but I think anyone could have played Dave Franco's character. I don't think anyone could have played Tommy Wiseau like James Franco did.
Cole and Eric, did you guys also lose James Franco in the Tommy Wiseau character, or did it feel like James Franco was just doing a Tommy Wiseau impression? Because I feel like that's got to be the deciding factor on whether or not he's had a good performance.
He had a great performance, and I did lose James Franco in it, and he won a Golden Globe for this too, for Best Actor, Comedy, or Musical. So this role was very respected for a reason.
Yep, I mean that's exactly how I felt as well. Like, while he is a caricature, Tommy Wiseau in general, the way that James Franco did it, and we already touched on this earlier in the pod, like, he did it with such care that it made it bigger than what it was. And that's definitely evident with, like Eric has alluded to, the accolades that this film has received. and even scored an Oscar nom for Best Adapted Screenplay, which is pretty cool too, being respected up there. Although and we'll get to this, I guess we'll get to right now, that Tommy Wiseau kept The Room in the theaters for 2 weeks and on his own dime just so that he could qualify. Now, The Room is not The Disaster Artist, but when The Room came out, that he kept it in the theater for 2 weeks just so he could qualify for the Oscars, because he honestly felt that he had such a great film on his hands, which is also a whole thing to discuss as well. Speaking of which, we're going to get to the premiere scene. This scene was just brilliant. We get some ups and downs between Greg and Tommy. We get some scenes with some pretty emotional laden football tackles and some screens at the camera. We get Bryan Cranston cameos. We get some just otherwise feel good or feel bad moments throughout the rest of this film as they're kind of going through the ups and downs of what inevitably turns out to be
Nathan
a flop.
Fielder, my man.
Nathan Fielder. A Zac Efron cameo. How can we forget the Zac Efron? Give me your fucking money. Like, that was brilliant.
Josh Hutcherson.
And the fact that the way they set it up, like, that was the first scene that they showed filming. Like, oh, this is going to be great. Nice job, everybody. And then it just evolved from there. And then when you guys watch The Room, watching that scene in The Room, fucking scene for scene, minute for minute, like, it's perfect. Efron just absolutely kills it. It was this guy's monster. It was just so good. I don't even remember where I was running with this whole thing.
About the premiere.
The premiere. Yes, the premiere. And he picks him up in the limo, and he drives by, and he's like, did you get a fucking spotlight? Like, it'd be weird if he fucking didn't do something weird. Like, it was just like the perfect culmination of all of the feelings that we were having about these characters. And the way that they did so for those that are not familiar, it took a while for the Disaster Artist to become famous. Or not Disaster Artist, The Room. It took a while for people to respect it, meaning that the entirety of these first couple of viewings, there's no way in hell the audience was laughing the way they were throughout this. It was kind of a truncated montage, if you will, of the way that people eventually reacted to this film. Now, that being said, those awkward moments, I can actually imagine putting myself in the seat of those actors with their family and friends there for the first time and not having any idea what was going to happen, not wanting to be there. Like, what the fuck? Like, Dave Franco is like, what am I fucking doing? And, like, the whole thing. And it just, the way they set that scene up, I mean, I know I personally enjoyed it, so I guess I want to hear it from you guys. What did you think of the premiere scene and the way they just kind of set the finale of the film in motion? Kelly?
I loved when we got the first sex shot scene up the butt crack, and the whole entire audience was like, oh!
Yeah.
That was definitely my favorite.
Didn't even talk about the sex scenes, but if we want to talk about the sex scenes for a second, tube socks and all, I mean, that was awkward, right?
Yeah, but like you said, it being a montage, because they had to do it that way because the film needs to be starting to wrap up at that point. So you have to make it this interactive thing. Even Seth Rogen character is cracking up. Even, I forget the actor's name, but the guy from the Hunger Games is in there, and he starts out very earnest, and he just
Josh Hutcherson.
Josh
Hutcherson.
Hutchinson.
Hutcherson.
Sorry, Hutcherson. This PETA from the Hunger Games. That's right. I'm like, why do I know this guy?
So PETA's reaction in the audience was really, really wholesome to me, because he just looks like a kid, and he's got that really funny wig on, and it was just a good time, funny feeling. And then you actually see Tommy go up there and take credit for it all, and it was just like heartwarming. So good times, especially the sex scene.
Cole, you want to toss in on the sex scene or the premiere, whatever? I mean, either one.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a bold choice to do a sex scene where it's just like a dude's butt right, front face of the camera. No matter what film you're doing, whether it's, full on, you're going full porno or not, it's always a bold choice. So I did love the reaction in the movie theater, because I think that's just kind of a reaction that anyone would have seen that. I also thought they did like the behind the scenes scene of like them actually filming it was like very well done, with like everyone, where Paul Scheer and Seth Rogen are just like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's like, well, let's do a closed set, give them privacy. And he's like, it's open set. Life is open. Everything's open. It's just like,
oh, right. And like the fact that he, like the whole having sex with your belly button comment,
yes.
That's the real life. That's the scene. Yeah. It's exactly the film, the way they fucking showed it. It's awkward as hell. Tommy's like halfway up the body of the actress. And it's like, this is too real.
It definitely felt like, God, there was a I think a comedian or some joke or whatnot, but like, the first time you ever have sex as a man with a woman, it's a lot lower than you expect. It's like the kind of the punchline of the joke. It's just like that scene was kind of like a recreation of basically someone losing their virginity, where it's like, it's just a lot lower than you think, man. I'll tell you what. So it's just it cracked me up. And then the scene, like when they're everyone's watching the film at the premiere, I loved the emotions that they showed of Tommy, because he just goes from like extreme excitement to he's like super sad. It's awkward. There's that whole awkward stretch where no one's laughing, no one's doing anything, and then you get his butt. Everyone is not into it. Tommy's falling apart, feels miserable, and then everyone starts laughing. He gets even worse, but then good old Greg turns it around and makes him his whole heart fills up like the Grinch, and next thing you know, he feels like a rock star because everyone loves his film. But it's and I think it honestly is it's one of those things that I don't know if anyone could take, where you go in and you make something that you want to be obviously a very serious drama, and it comes out as a comedy. Mm-hmm. And obviously that would hurt, but if you're able to embrace it, I think, which he has, I think that's awesome, because that shows like a lot of like self-reflection and growth perhaps. And but then again, he's obviously very he wants to be famous, and if that's his way, he'll do anything, right? So maybe it's all just a part of that. But I did enjoy that scene for sure.
All right, Eric, what do you think?
I think that, the final scene, it's kind of the ultimate, well, it doesn't really matter how the movie turned out. It's about the friends we made along the way. And I think it's like the emotional, like, total point of the film, where Greg and Tommy just kind of realize, well, like, we're true friends. Like, it doesn't really matter that the intention of this movie didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to. We're still friends, and, like, we also made something that, even though people are laughing at it, it gave great enjoyment to a whole room of people. And they looked at it the right way. I wish I had that perspective in life more of the time, because they ended up profiting off of it, because they fully took on like, oh yeah, well, this film is kind of a joke. So, and I think Tommy still, he didn't want to believe at first that everybody was laughing at it, and then he changed his tune, and that's how he made all of his money back. He like showed it around everywhere and started like getting back all of his money. So very smart thing to show some humility. But yeah, I liked the ending a lot. It felt like very fitting. It was like we started out with these two guys and their budding friendship and ended with it. So
absolutely. I think it's hilarious that he went from being like the Tennessee Williams thriller style of like drama, and then to going to embracing the fact that it's a dark comedy, as he calls it.
Yeah,
it just shows that he's a spin doctor, and probably has been his entire career, and how he probably got his money from, you don't get that way without some street smarts, and he probably realized the writing on the wall and was like, this is well, I got to make money out of this somehow, as you all have alluded to. I also really enjoyed that final scene. I thought that it was a good job of showing some humanity, but also why this film became a cult classic, because people truly do care one way or another, even though it is truly ridiculous. So before we get to our final reviews, we got to talk about some things that we haven't really quite hit on, mostly because this film does not utilize them as big drivers, things like soundtrack, cinematography, all that. Do you guys have any notes on either of those two big subjects that we oftentimes hit on in our films? Soundtrack, it just had a lot of replays of famous songs from different places. And as far as cinematography goes, it was just showing a recreation of a Hollywood film. Guys, any thoughts, input otherwise?
Yeah, cinematography felt like just standard of the time of also Seth Rogen, James Franco type movies, same kind of cinematography style. And for music choices, it only really stood out to me when they were doing like the cheesy like Sims building kind of music that they used during like the interviews and things, where they were just like really, even in the beginning of it, of just like, this is a great movie, and in the background it sounds like you're playing The Sims. And they had that kind of like hopeful, optimistic, cheesy music that kind of was a reoccurring motif throughout the movie as well. No real notes on it other than I noticed it, and same for cinematography. No real notes, nothing really A24-y about this in those aspects, or really throughout the whole movie. It just doesn't really have any shake the wine glass around. No notes of A24 for me to sniff.
Interesting. Cole, Eric, what do you guys think?
I mean, I wouldn't have guessed this was an A24 film, just given the nature of the cinematography and all that stuff. The story definitely fits into the A24 of like a cult classic, like kind of a weird, kind of a sub-genre niche type thing. So like the idea does, but the I would say the application of the product does not give the A24 vibes. Cinematography, I think it was very basic, very standard, not bad, not good, doesn't do anything unique, but I don't feel like it had to. I felt like it was almost better that it wasn't trying to tell a story through the visual through like the cinematography, while like a lot of movies and stuff you want to feel the emotion, things like that. But this is kind of a retelling of a story of filming, so it's kind of like shot almost as if it's a behind the scenes, like You Are the Fly on the Wall that was alluded to in the beginning of the film from the guy from Parks and Rec, whose name escapes me.
Adam Scott.
Yeah, Adam Scott. There we go. The guy who made the Cone board game. How could I forget? But yeah, like I think it was all fine. And again, I think it didn't distract from what the film really had to show, to be honest. And I think that was honestly a positive thing, to be honest. So,
okie dokie. Eric, what do you think about cinematography, lack thereof, soundtrack?
Echo those statements. Yeah, like it didn't stand out to me at all, and it wasn't bad either, though. It just got the job done. Maybe in the end that might. I mean, like I kind of agree with Cole. Like it didn't need to be more, but then that'll affect my final grade. Probably is like, well, then we got to take this film as more of a comedy drama that isn't trying to be too serious about itself, and can those films, get in the A+ category? You shall see.
Excellent. Well, the last thing I want to talk about is there was a hidden scene. How many of you got through the end of the credits? Did you watch all the way to the end, Marvel style?
I didn't, but I heard about it, yeah.
Yeah, so for our listeners, if you get to the very end of the credits, there is a hidden scene which is basically held at a rooftop party of Greg's, and Tommy is kind of standing off on the side, and the actual Tommy Wiseau, playing a different character, comes up and talks to James Franco. Now, the reason I bring this up is it's kind of interesting. I was listening to an interview with James Franco today, and he talks about how that was a contractually obligated appearance for Tommy Wiseau in the film. And he also, James Franco, had fully intended to cancel or not use it. He was going to leave it on the cutting room floor. But then James Franco realized that he needed he wanted to do the side-by-side shots that Eric had alluded to earlier and use it as part of his promotion of saying, hey, this is the shot of the room. But in order to do that, he needed the original filming rights to the room. And of course he goes to Tommy, and then Tommy goes, well, where's my scene? And he's like, it's not in the movie. Well, too bad, it's got to be in the movie, otherwise you're not getting the rights. So it was a way to kind of slip himself in there, even though James Franco found a way to move it towards the end. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's actually pretty cool. And it just showed a little, human side of that whole relationship as well, which I thought was pretty cool. So at this point, I feel like it's probably time we're going to jump right into the reviews. because this film was unique. It was different. It was definitely something that kept our attention and generated a different discussion than we normally have when talking about some of these films, which I think is pretty cool and definitely leaves a little bit of A24 vibe for me in that perspective. And I think, Cole, you alluded to that if they were going to write a film about this guy, it would be A24 that was going to do it just because it was so off the wall. I guess I'll start since I'm already talking. Kind of seems logical at this point. So I really enjoyed this film. I definitely liked watching it from start to finish. There was a couple awkward moments where I found myself not watching the screen because I was kind of like, this is so cringy for me to watch as an audience member. I can't even imagine what it would have been like being in the room or trying to film it or trying to work with this guy. And the fact that they got me to feel those emotions, meaning that they did a really great job of doing it. For all of the things that James Franco has been known for now, at the time, to be able to do what he did with this film, from writing and directing and starring in it, all of those things obviously was based off a memoir, and he had some things to go off of. But that's a whole nother layer to this too. So he was playing a guy who was acting and directing his own movie while acting and directing in his own movie. That had to put him in an interesting headspace. And I also heard reports that he was in character the entire film. So you can imagine working with this guy trying to actually direct a movie and he's acting like Tommy Wiseau instead of James Franco. I'm sure that was frustrating as hell, and Seth Rogen probably has some fun stories about what that was like. But for all intents and purposes, it certainly seems that they did this movie right, that they did the research correct, they did the character development the right way, that they did not want to come across as demonizing or villainizing Tommy Wiseau, and truly wanted to show him for the enigma that he is. For better or for worse, he certainly is someone in our culture that we can, have a conversation about, and some of the art that he produced and continues to produce today. I thought that the acting was just well done. The cinematography and soundtrack, like everyone remarked about, was unremarkable. There was nothing to write home about. The fact that The Disaster Artist is one of those films that does stick out in the A24 catalog as famous for one way or another. Maybe it's because it's based on The Room and the cult following that follows that. I'm not really sure, or because of the A-list actors that were accompanying it, but it certainly was one that I was looking forward to hosting and reviewing, and it definitely held up for me across the board. It was not my most favorite, but it had a great layer of comedy as well as a great layer of sincere emotion and sincere subject matter that truly made me kind of sit and ponder it. And if I can think about a movie for days afterwards, that means that it was a very good film and that it was something that I want other folks to watch. And especially if you're listening to this and have no idea what The Room is or The Disaster Artist, and you're just listening because you like us or whatever may have you, this is definitely a story to dig your teeth into. It was well done. I just enjoyed it from start to finish, so I'm going to give this one a B+ 24. Kelly, you're next.
Okay. Me again. I feel like I keep getting called on.
Because literally you're the first screen that's up from my screen, so I just see you and I just go you next. So it's like a chronological order thing.
Okay, I will keep it brief, and I know I say that a lot, and I still talk a lot anyways. Oh no, and I'm already adding to the time. I will keep it brief. This movie for me was just like fine. I giggled, but mostly I was just kind of like, I just feel like I'm watching a movie while I'm watching this movie. I wasn't super invested. I didn't hate it. I was mostly just kind of neutral, but it did give me a few giggles. I think that there's some great aspects of really good, phenomenal acting in this movie, but you guys know me. What I really like in a movie is something a lot different from this in general. So that's what puts it into the higher tiers for me, is when it's more not this. This is as good as I think it gets for a movie of this kind of genre. I also think that there's a certain like amount of like shifty eye, like if you know kind of like in joke that's required to maybe like this movie even more than just normal. I think a lot of this movie is this kind of in joke, so it's almost like created for that audience. It almost makes, this feels like the craziest comparison, but it makes me think of Tusk in that kind of aspect, where it's like a movie made based on a meme that's kind of going around. In this aspect, though, it's not about a walrus that never existed, but instead a real human being who is still existing and cohabitating this earth with us, believe it or not. So It's a fascinating kind of like character study, biography, retelling, creative endeavor. And I understand all that, and it's fine, and it's good, but at the end of the day, I just think I just feel neutral about it, and I know that that has to do with my flavor of interests myself anyways, and neutral is neutral, so I have to give it's better than just normal neutral because I did still walk away with feeling, and as I always kind of say, that's a crucial aspect to how I review movies as well. So that's going to give it a little bit of a plus. So I'm walking away with a C plus 24.
Wow.
Okie dokie. Eric, you're up.
So I really enjoy, like, how did this get made kind of films. Like, I said earlier, Ed Wood is a similar film to this. It was a film about, like, how a horrible, horrible movie got made, but it's also a film about the Hollywood system. And, well, in this case, though, it's a film about how something got made outside of the Hollywood system. And I like, really am interested in these kind of films. So that does bump it up for me. But I do think it leaned too much into the comedy aspect when we think of the genre of comedy drama. Like, I'll give you a few other good comedy dramas, like The Breakfast Club, Sideways, Silver Linings Playbook. All those films, they're comedic, but then when the dramatic scenes happen, you're really invested. You're really, like, believing in the characters and really caring about them. In this, I wouldn't say I cared as much about the dramatic scenes and just kind of the friendship between Tommy and Greg. There was no high stakes here for me. Obviously, also knowing that Tommy had an unlimited bank account, there wasn't really any stakes. Saying that, though, I think that the ensemble in this film was, like, awesome, and I think that the acting was phenomenal. And like I said earlier, I think that the Rogen and, like, Franco duo, this was, like, the best film they could create, and I did enjoy some of their earlier films. So, you know what? I'm going to give this a B plus 24, just like Kevin. It won't get in the A category for me, but I still enjoy these kind of films, and I think that this was the best that Rogen and Franco could produce, and also, you know, as much as I hate to say it, it was a great acting job by Franco.
Fantastic. Cole, bring us home.
So, this is like a weird kind of film for me because it's like a slice of life, but it's not a slice of life because it's kind of like that weird in-between world as upside down or whatever the kids are saying these days with the Netflix. But I enjoyed this film. I thought it was a very interesting story. And I think if I watched this without really understanding a lot of the context and the meme culture around it, it probably wouldn't have hit as well as it did. And I'm sure it's even better if you watch the movie, Kevin, just fly up, come to Alaska, we'll bring you up, you and me, a bottle of whiskey, we'll watch it. Eric, you're
Hell
welcome.
yeah,
Eric,
buddy.
well, of course, Eric and Kelly, you're always welcome.
There we go.
We're planning on it.
Yes, sir. But I want to watch this film, but I want to watch it with the right people, right? Like it's like you want to go on a walkabout, but you don't want to go with some weirdos. You want to go with the right people. So I'm still waiting. I am excited to watch the movie. I definitely want to watch it a lot now that I saw this. I felt like it was a very well done movie. Didn't do anything too special. Didn't really hit that A24 like scratch in my brain that we all have, at least in this podcast. But with all that being said, it's still a good movie. But I agree, it's not an A. I gave it a B24. So it's up there. It's good. Really love the cast. I felt like this is kind of a like Eric was talking about, a James Franco,
Seth Rogen
feature that was like their pinnacle. And I if James Franco didn't have the stuff happen with him, or not stuff happen to him, if he didn't allegedly do the things that he may have done that resulted in a tear in their relationship, and he was just a decent human being, allegedly, I felt like they could have gone a very cool route of like the Adam Sandler friend verse, right? Where it's like Adam Sandler makes all these kind of kooky, just trash films for him and his buddies to hang out. And I felt like James Franco and Seth Rogen had hit the pinnacle of like trashy friend movies, but they're not trashy anymore. They're just like, I got a ton of talented friends, a ton of people that will do stuff, and we can just do some weird shit, and we're gonna knock it out of the park. But sadly, that kind of got muddled up. But that's my review. Also, I realized I locked my cat, or one of my cats, in this room for the last like hour, so she's here now.
What up, cat?
I did not realize she was here until she came up to me. So she was
like, "Hey,
locked in here.
Get me out of this place."
She's not happy.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope you have a top of the mountain day. And if you're still listening to us at this point, thank you. We certainly appreciate it. If you don't mind leaving us a little 5-star review, maybe a little review, a little like and follow, subscription, if you will. We're on all the socials. We'd love to have you on. Do you like A24? Do you like talking about movies? Do you want to be on a podcast? We want to have you. Come on over. Let's talk. Send us a message, and we'll have you on one of these bad boys. But until the next one, this has been A24 on the Rocks. Thanks for listening.
Can I get a
Bye-bye.
Lisa, you're tearing me apart on 3? 2, 3.
Lisa, tear me